morning, everyone. Nice to see everyone here. I know it is a festive week and many people are in that festive mode, but it's good that we were able to get Mr. Varma to come back for one more lecture before Diwali. I think most of you were here for the last one when we were talking about the middle class and its role in a democracy and the middle class in politics in particular. So today's session will largely be based on your questions. Also, you're going to be given an assignment by your teachers today, which is actually related to everything Mr. Varma has been talking about over the last few classes that we've had with him. So I would urge you to pay attention and take notes wherever possible. So let's begin our question and answer session straight away, or would you like to weigh in with anything? Okay, so please raise your hand and identify yourself and ask your question.
Ask anything you want.
Go ahead.
So, sir, my name is Madhu, and I want to ask you.
Yes, fine.
So, I want to ask you, like, if you look at after independence historically, the politics,
Can you all hear it?
politics was seen as a means to an end, as an act of public service, even contributing to national development, and achieving the private goals was something much higher ideas that they said. However, when we transition to 70s, 80s, money came in as a part of society. And when we look at it now, we see what trading is. So the politics has become as an end in itself. Like we want to, so it's not like we want to do this to get, so not to do public service. To do this. It has become an end itself. Like we have less thirst for power. So, how do you see this transition, and what should be the way forward? How we can have some checks and balances in the system so that we can create more conditions environments for the people who really want to work for national development, public service. They can come in rather than. So, maybe that's
Thank you, Mother. There is always the struggle in public life between idealism and pragmatism. Gandhi ji believed firmly in the principle that the means are as important as the end. If you look at his life, let us start not in South Africa, but in Japan. Any of you from Bihar? So in Japan, when he went to fight against the exploitation of the indigo farmers, his aim was not only to have the laws changed. I would really urge you to read his book, his autobiography, My Experiments with Truth, and the section on Champaran. He had a dilemma. It was the beginning, he was relatively unknown at that time. Of course, he had a reputation for what he had done in South Africa. But he chose a remote, almost inaccessible place at that time in Champaran to start his satyagraha. The British were willing to have a conversation with him, but they issued an order later for his expulsion. All of you must have seen the book, the film Gandhi by Rajya Sabha. And if you haven't, I strongly recommend that you see. The most amazing part of his life was that courtroom where he goes to not appeal against his judgment. The decision of the British administration was that he should leave the district. Otherwise, he would be punished. Gandhiji says, I will not leave, and I urge the judge to give me the maximum punishment that the law allows. It's a remarkable thing if you read his statement in the courtroom. And the judge is wrong. The judge doesn't know how to respond. He says, I, on principle, will not leave the district unless I have brought justice for the cause which I am pursuing, for which I am conducting currently a survey, a fact-finding survey. I am willing to collaborate with the British in establishing the facts, but I will not leave and I will not follow your order. And therefore, please give me the maximum punishment that the law allows. And as you know, famously, the judge did not punish him. The British also were shocked at this kind of approach. And in the end, he stayed there. He had gone for a few days, he stayed there for months. He worked not only for the indigo planters, volunteers joined him. He set up schools. He contributed to primary health care. And he said that there must be health and sanitary conditions created. So he was looking at a holistic change in one of the most backward districts of India. And then the British agreed to form a committee which gave relief to the farmers, the indigo farmers in Champaran. It was a remarkable victory. And it was he who first stressed the principle in the entire thought history of India that the means are more important than the end. Let me tell you, this theory did not exist in India. If you read Kautilya's Arthashastra, the end is more important than the means. All of you are familiar with Sam, Dam, Danda, Bhed. That use any means that are possible, reconciliation, allurement, punishment, creation of divisions in the opponent's camp. And perhaps you all are not aware that there is a fifth upay that he spoke about, that is called asana, the strategic art of sitting on the fence. One of our prime ministers, P.V. Narasimha Rao, perfected the art. So the stress has always been on the end being more important than the means. Gandhiji was the first person, and frankly, it was an extreme idealist position that the means are more important than the end. All of you are also familiar with Chauri Chora. The freedom movement was gaining momentum. And please read also. I say this to you because we have to become a thinking country. We have to become a country where the young know their history. The past, the present, and the future are not watertight compartments. They are a seamless whole. Please read the letters between Jawaharlal Nehru and Mahatma Gandhi. Jawaharlal Nehru's letters, I think 70% of them are protesting against Mahatma. But in the end, he says, I love you, Bapu, I'll do what you say. But they were in protest against Gandhiji's inflexible insistence on means being more important than the end. So now Chori Chora happens. It's not planned, but in the heat of the moment, a crowd gathers around a police jockey and resorts to violence. And Gandhiji's principle against the strong was ahimsa, not violence, satya. And to the shock of his own party, the Congress party, and its tallest leaders, including Jawaharlal Nehru, he suspends the agitation because for him the means were as important as the end. So I'm taking a little longer because the question is important. Post independence, for some time the political class in India was greatly influenced by the idealism of the freedom movement and by Mahatma Gandhi. But the changes were apparent because that level of idealism is impossible to follow when you are running a country and not fighting against someone who is unjustly ruling your country. So, for instance, Gandhiji wanted, in my view, wrongly, that Rashtrapati Bhavan becomes a hospital. Instead, one of his foremost followers who wore khadi, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, moved into the world's largest palace. Rashtrapati Bhavan, where I have worked, is the world's largest palace. Panditji moved to the second largest house in Delhi, which was Flagstaff House, Teen Murti Mahal, and so on and so forth. Now, for some time, they kept the symbolisms of Gandhiji's principles of means being as important as the end in their external appearance. They wore khadi, they swore by simplicity, they talked of the poor, but elections cost money and you have to raise money. Now, there is a famous story, Nidhi, perhaps apocryphal, that Panditji was Prime Minister. His son-in-law was Jawaharlal Nehru's son-in-law was was his father.
Firoz
His
Khan.
daughter. Who was there? His daughter.
Firoz Khan.
Not Khan.
Firoz
Firoz
Khan.
Khan. So, थोड़ा पढ़ लो कभी कभार शौक के कंपल्शन में नहीं
ना तो स्कूल में भी पढ़ाओ.
So anyway, Firoz Gandhi was his son-in-law, and he used to run a paper apart from being in politics himself. He was a member of parliament in Lucknow called the Pioneer.
think I.
Now, the paper was not doing very well, and it needed some short-term loan. So, being the Prime Minister's son-in-law, he asked a businessman, a rich businessman, to loan him some money to pay for the salaries and the continued running of the newspaper. So that businessman paid him in those amounts, लोग कहते थे लखपति हो, आप तो सभी लखपति हैं. So that businessman paid him 1 lakh rupees. The matter went on. कुछ दिनों के बाद that businessman came to Delhi. And since he was important, he sought an appointment with the Prime Minister. Dewan. And in the course of that meeting, he could not resist telling him as a way of currying favors. आज के जमाने में if you tell the chief minister साहब आपके दामाद को कुछ पैसे चाहिए थे, the son-in-law needed some money, I gave him. Chief minister might be happy, but when he told Panditji this, Panditji didn't react. After he left, he called up the treasurer of the Congress party, Rafi Ahmad Kidwai, and he was furious. He said, "What is going on? This Happani Tappani businessman has the temerity to come to me and tell me that he has paid Varun Gandhi 1 lakh rupees." I think it was the Congress newspaper, not the Pioneer. Was it the Herald? Was it the Herald? Or
National Herald.
possible. So Rafi Ahmad Kidwai, poor fellow, he was the treasurer. He had to run the party. So Rafi Ahmad Kidwai said, "Ki, ask Pandit, to aap chahte kya? What do you want?" He said, "Return the money to him." He said, "It will be done." Rafi Ahmad Kidwai went to another businessman and took a loan of 1 lakh and returned the money to the businessman who had loaned the money to Firoz. Pandit ji बैठे, फिर वापस करे पैसे, उन्होंने कर दिए. In other words, pragmatism, the need for money, the lust for power. I use the word lust, not the ambition for power. Increasingly, the manifest dividends of the misuse of power became evident to politicians because of the power they wielded. There was a time, my father was in the ICS, in the bureaucracy, when a bureaucrat told a chief minister, "I'm sorry, sir, this is not allowed under the rules. And you will have to give me orders in writing before I can consider following these orders." And politicians listened. Then politicians realized that bureaucrats are also ambitious. Then bureaucrats began to tell cynical politicians, "साहब आप ये क्या मांग रहे हैं? हम तो रूल्स को ऐसा करके इंटरप्रेट करेंगे कि आपको ये भी दे देंगे. आप बस मेरी पोस्टिंग अच्छी एक करा दीजिए." So gradually the milieu began to change. And with Mrs. Indira Gandhi, who was otherwise a great leader, what happened was that the adulation, the sheer adulation that she received, and her struggle within the Congress to be in power, to win elections, led to a lot of the idealism of the freedom movement which you mentioned means are as important as the end to be thrown out of the window. And since then, there has been a steady decline. So, politics today, good people also have to find that balance between rectitude, what is right, and how much of the wrong is tolerable. Once a very senior but from the clerical cadre, but he had worldly wisdom, told me कि साहब कुछ गलत काम मत कीजिए पर दाल में नमक को भी तो मना नहीं कर सकते. It was the phrase itself comes from long inherited wisdom of a very ancient civilization. So you have to draw that balance. Where you draw it is a matter of personal conscience and choice. I have been a member of two political parties. I've never dealt with finances. But I know that money is raised because elections have become so expensive. And I know that businessmen pay because they need favors. And I know the electoral bond scheme is a total sham. The donor is anonymous, the party is anonymous. All you're doing is that even the donor corporate does not have to show the amount as part of their official expenses, therefore it is tax free. All you are doing is to pay the same money instead of cash in white, sometimes by creating 100 shell companies. So, एक crore सबसे लिया ऐसे दे दी. So, we have reached a level where the beach of all corruption in India is in politics. And that is why there is a need for change. And change can come, and by the way, come with the requirement of money. Please recall the campaign of Bernie Sanders. He was a presidential candidate in 2016 and 2020. Unlike his other rivals, he refused to accept. In America, it's legal, but it's not opaque like this election bond scheme. That देने वाला का नाम आता है, ना मिलने वाले पार्टी का नाम आता है, सब खुश. He said, I will not take money from big firms. He will do what will be the future in India. I can assure you. We are in the process by 25 or 24 to have our own party. Is crowdfunding. You see, today the digital revolution has created a situation where Bernie Sanders put, I think, a ceiling of $27 and asked his supporters to pay that money digitally so that every donor is trackable. And he raised over $200 million transparently on public website through digital transactions of small amounts from people. So if in the state of Bihar, there are 12 crore, 13 crore people, if 1 crore of them pay 100 rupees each, digitally, from there, like you pay, it's possible now. You've raised a lot of money. And these reforms are pending. The Election Commission has recommended them time and again. But Parliament never takes up electoral reform to bring financial transparency, rectitude, and some level of morality into politics because all parties are beneficiaries of this system. And so when you join politics or think of joining politics or want to contribute to politics or have a view on what is happening, you must know the facts. Sorry, long answer to a question.
Very important answer. Uh, who else has a question? Please raise your hand. Otherwise, I will call on you randomly to say something. So please do think of a question. Yeah.
आप think, जो मर्जी पूछिए ना मुझसे.
Good morning, sir. My name is Aishwarya. And what I want to ask is, with the upcoming elections, and in the recent years, there has been a lot of questions regarding India's democracy. Even for the electoral democracy rank, India did 208, if I'm not wrong. And would you say that the political orientation and political preferences of the middle class to be particular, because it constitutes the largest sector of the voting, constitutes the largest number of votes. Would you say that it is the political preferences or orientation of the middle class that has had a huge impact on the slipping of democracy from India's borders?
Well, first of all, as Nidhi was rightly commenting to me, it is increasingly becoming a very large segment of the voting population, but it is not the largest. Still, I think those below the middle class constitute the largest number. But yes, the middle
Which
class.
is why you see the BJP welfare politics, for example, the Prime Minister just announced the food grain scheme, free food grains for another 5 years for the poor. Those schemes are very important separately for the BJP's win.
So, but the middle class, although its numerical size may be smaller than those who are below it and more deprived, has a disproportionately greater influence on molding public opinion nationally. So, in the 2014 campaign, as part of strategy, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, then Chief Minister Narendra Modi, focused first on the middle class. And he read the psychology of the middle class. Middle class wants strong leader, not necessarily a very democratic leader. Strong leader who can guarantee national security, who can take decisions for the middle class as well, who can perhaps help the economy grow. And the economy of our country is very lopsided. All of you are economic students. How much does agriculture contribute to the GDP? And industry? And services sector? So the services sector is the largest contributor to the GDP and also is one of the greatest employers of the low middle class and aspirational middle class. So what he and the middle classes mold public opinion through their position in journalism, as bureaucrats, as small shopkeepers, as professionals, lawyers, doctors, engineers. They are articulate, they have a means to express themselves. So therefore, he targeted the middle class. Now, by the same logic, what the middle class wants, if it is different to what the leader expects it to want, no political party can ignore the middle class also. Just suppose, we mentioned last time the Nirbhaya case, the Jessica Lal case. Uh, Suppose resident welfare associations across NCR, 6 months before this kind of pollution comes, start holding candlelight vigils, taking out marches. We need right to breathe clean air. Suppose the middle class, as happened briefly during Anna Hazare's movement, comes out strongly for cleaner politics. The accountability between business and politics. This is the beach of corruption. And the middle class says, we want cleaner politics. Partly corruption is going down because of technology. Earlier, I used to pay house tax, and some inspector would come and require. Now I do it online. You need a passport, you do it online. You need to renew license, are always there, but it has, eradicated that source of corruption. But equally, corruption, Indians are very ingenious people. They will find new ways. ऐसे थोड़ा ना हार मानते हैं। और ये प्रवृत्ति सिर्फ भारतीयों में नहीं है, वर्ल्ड वाइड है। If you put cameras to check speed, my driver says, sir, कितनी भी जल्दी हो, मैं तो नहीं चलाऊंगा, because he's being monitored. But if you just ride speed limit 50 and it's not being monitored, वो भगा देगा गाड़ी. Simple. So systems have to be created. The middle class can contribute greatly because of its disproportionate influence in molding public view on changes that have become mandatory for this country. Better quality of democracy, cleaner politics, civic rights. I mean, delegates assured power. Go out a little. Whatever the hype of the government is, then every government has done as much as this. Power नहीं है. आज भी इंस्पेक्टर डाल किसी न किसी बहाने से any big business has to take a restaurant. There are some 41 inspectors. Still, they'll come, they'll say, अरे ये food में थोड़ा एक cockroach दिख गया था. They'll hold up your plates and you have to pay. So if the middle class wants to change, it has the power. The problem is the middle class is too consumed by its own individual aspirational success rather than a collective approach for a better India. And by the way, there is a correlation between a qualitatively better moral India and an economically progressive India. These are obstacles to economic growth. They lead to crony capitalism. They don't allow a level playing field. So that's what I mean when I say the middle class's powers are undervalued
by the middle class itself. I think मजाक में हर साल इस समय people are gasping for air. You all will have children. High net worth individuals are leaving the city because of pollution. And they can, but lots of people can't. Here is the middle class, which is a passive recipient of blatant incompetence year after. They enjoy. I'm blaming BJP blaming up. The truth is, you cannot resolve the pollution problem by only accusing one state and another. It's a collective 4-5 state problem. You have to set up a coordination. So on an emergency footing, you have to find a solution to Parali burning in Punjab. Tell me, why has Parali burning gone up in Punjab? Anyone knows the answer?
Because there is no solar farmer.
Why?
Because there is no
So because of the
technology.
Technology. You?
because of the use of machines, earlier it was done through the hands, so there was not an option of burning the parali. But now with the advent of technology, the farmers are using the machines to cut down their crops.
It
That's
gets,
one answer.
it
Yes.
gets very cheaper for them to get rid of that parali for the farm.
पराली का प्रॉब्लम बर्निंग का तो पहले भी रहा होगा, अब क्यों? See, I want you all to read even the newspaper, or occasionally go on the net. You all are suffering. You may be in one of the best universities, but you're breathing this toxic air which is reducing your life by years. The real reason is that now Punjab harvests a third crop. Rabi Kharif में wheat होता था Punjab. Now all governments, to appease the farmers, give unlimited electricity, free, and water. Groundwater is going down, but tube wells लगे जा रहे हैं, पानी की कमी नहीं. So they have realized that technology and fast yielding crops allow them to grow a third crop, which is dhan, rice. Now the gap between the sowing of the third crop and the harvesting of the last crop is about 2 weeks. They have to get rid in order to sow again. Problems are very complex, but solutions are possible. You get 500 helicopters for artificial rain around Delhi and NCR region. Okay, they are busy now in campaigning. The biggest demand on elections is helicopters. अगर आप लोग और कुछ नहीं करें जिंदगी में, चौपर खरीद लीजिए. Political parties will pay any amount for a chopper because their leaders need it. I remember when I was in JDU in Bihar, BJP opponent team, they lost the election, but they had booked in advance every comfortable good chopper. Poor Nitish Kumar had got one chopper. Got one chopper. वो जब पूरे दिन के बाद आते थे ना, तो मुझसे कहते थे, used to have a cup of tea at his house, कि मेरी ना अभी भी हड्डियां बज रही हैं. Chopper was not pressurized and it used to vibrate. So choppers, they are all for election campaign. Okay, get them from Singapore, yeah. You can spend 560 crores on advertising in Punjab or For that matter, the central government can spend hundreds of crores on publicity. Hire choppers, start afresh, where the parali farming, the fires are there, quick burnout, jahan artificial rain is possible. But I'm saying there are solutions to problems. I'm not saying they're easy. But who's there to put pressure on government? आप लोग तो सब चुप हैं। अखबार सब आगे लिखे हुए हैं। Solution क्या है?
If I could intervene with a question there, which is that the middle class's involvement in politics doesn't necessarily have to be by contesting an election or joining a political party. It's very much also by just going out and casting your vote. And I remember that when we were younger, we would often take that vote for granted. We would think, okay, is it really going to make a difference? Will my vote really make a difference if I don't go? And I realized over the years that, I think once you are conscious of the fact that this is an important function in a democracy and that your voice does matter, even if it's just that one voice, it may not make a big difference if there's a wave going in favor of a political party, but you at least are exercising your right and making your voice heard in your own way, And what I find very irritating about the middle class and the upper middle class and sort of the richest parts of our society is that they stay home when it comes to voting day. They take it as a holiday. They'll go for a long weekend to Alibag. South Bombay doesn't come out and vote. And this is true, isn't it? Across our cities, voter turnouts in rural India are always higher. You know why? Because rural India realizes the importance and the power that their vote has. They have bigger stakes in, things like demanding better roads or accountability from their elected representatives. But we're just not like that. The middle class is so lazy. We don't even participate in elections in the way that we should.
You're right, but now the middle class is certainly more politically sensitive. There is higher voting. पहले तो apathy थी, but now Nidhi is right, it's still not enough. But I slightly disagree with Nidhi. It's not just casting your vote. That shows your commitment and involvement in the democratic process. It is also about the reasons for your casting the vote and for some degree of discussion with peer groups. भाई आप इंडिविजुअली भी क्रांति ला सकते हैं अगर आप महात्मा गांधी, आप सब लोग तो नहीं है ना, मैं हूं ना ये। तो what does the middle class think? The middle class now thinks, yes, problem solve होने नहीं वाले हैं, तो हम ऐसा करते हैं, gated communities बना लेते हैं। हाँ, keep the unwashed masses out. अच्छा, बिजली नहीं है, जनरेटर लगाओ, पानी नहीं है, ट्यूबवेल खोल दो, दोनों अगर अलाउड नहीं है लीगली, पैसे दे दो, ऊंची ऊंची दीवारें बना लो, सिक्योरिटी कंपनी को लगा लो। ये पार्ट टाइम वर्कर्स के बगैर तो काम नहीं चलेगा, तो उनको अलाउ करो पर यहाँ रहने मत दो, बाहर से आए, काम करें और जाए। फिर अंदर एक क्लब हाउस बनाओ, जिम है, make an island of your own with nothing changing outside. Become complicit and collaborate with the system by carving out your own space within it rather than changing the system. But the successful cannot secede to form their own republic. हम देश के हिस्सा। So You know, my point is that the insularity of the middle class needs to end. You are a power and you have shown it. But unfortunately, it's not yet a fully tapped market. Boys will say, and we are all companies, they can participate in a debate on the ills of dowry. I know so many. जब अपनी बारी आती है तो दे एक्सेप्टेड बट से वो पेरेंट्स इतना जिद कर रहे थे हम क्या करें वो उसने कहा था मंटो में हिज टाइम औरत जब बिकती है तो उसको तवैर कहते हैं मर्द जब बिकता है तो उसको दूल्हा कहते हैं We are all collaborators. Unfortunately, I married a woman who, after I fell in love with her, she said that she's the president of the Anti-Dowry Association. मेरा तो नुकसान हो गया. But anyway, I'm just saying that in our own way, हम सिस्टम क्या बन लेंगे जब हम उसमें कंप्लिसिट हैं उसके हिस्से हैं और मैंने पहले भी कहा है you sit in your living rooms, your cafes and criticize corruption in high places. But if caught by a cop on a traffic light, you will take out $500 and give it. So these are things we should confront, we should talk about. But one thing, the middle class's ability, the need to become more involved, more informed, participant in politics in this country has never been greater than before.
And just to take off from that, I would also urge, and Madhav will be testimony, sort of witness to this. I keep telling my class also, there isn't a single successful entrepreneur, corporate leader that I have met, because many of you are management students that I've met in this country, who is not politically, economically, socially aware of what is going on around them. So please, it's not just about coming and doing your course. There is a reason why reading a newspaper is important, knowing what is happening to the economy is important, but it's also important for you to know what is happening socially and politically, because that will have a bearing on the economy and that will have a bearing on your future. So please read, please know. It doesn't matter if you were not born in 1930, but please go back and see how we gained our independence. Not through the burden of having to sit and write a history exam, but just of trying to understand where we are today and why we have got here. So I'm saying, even for your own success and your personal growth and the success of whatever you want to do tomorrow, please be aware. Just, reading headlines on social media is not going to help you. I'm telling you, like, these are the best of the best corporate leaders. We have time for one more question. So, no, Madhav already asked, yeah, to be fair. So next.
My name is Gurugram. I'm from Haryana. So actually, I have a question that BJP is playing with youth's mind. Like in my college, friendship is like you are Hindu or Muslim. Like what I can do in that situation? Like some of students grouping and start shouting Jai Sri Ram, and even my college management does not take any action against them.
First of all, accept the fact that India is a country where there are Hindus, there are Muslims, there are Sikhs, and many other denominations, Jains, Buddhists. In 1948, soon after independence, in the aftermath of partition, our first Prime Minister had a habit of writing a weekly letter to all chief ministers. ईमेल होता नहीं था, तो he used to send a long letter about his thoughts. In one of his letters, he says, coexistence of religious communities in India is not an option, but a compulsion. तो पहले तो आप first forget the principles, come to the practicalities. If we base our political strategies on the basis of a Hindu-Muslim divide, it's partly successful. Why? Because Hindus are 80%, the rest are smaller. But if in doing so we create a divide which becomes seriously acrimonious, let me use a kinder word, acrimonious means perpetually high level tension. So the problem with India is that no minority is geographically segregated. चलिए अगर सारे सिख एक ही जगह रहते हैं, तो भाई उनको अब प्रॉब्लम क्या है इंडिया में कि चाहे माइनॉरिटी कम भी हो, you can't, you have 200 million Muslims. It's the third largest population of Muslims in the world. And the second problem for those who espouse such a policy of religious divide is that this minority is not geographically segregated. If 30% of West Bengal is Muslim, 25% of Kerala is Muslim, 20% of UP is Muslim, 18% of Bihar is Muslim, 14% of Karnataka is Muslim, 12% of Tamil Nadu is Muslim. And furthermore, they live cheek by jowl. ऐसा नहीं है कि सब जगह एक ही मोहल्ला मुसलमानों का, एक ही हिंदू साथ साथ रहते हैं. आज 1000 साल हो गए. शुरू में they did come. The Turkic invasion I never underplay. It was one of the, as Bill Durant has said, one of the bloodiest chapters of Indian history. पर उसके बावजूद अब एक गंगा जमुनी तहजीब है. पॉलिटिक्स में दोनों तरफ से गलती हुई. माइनॉरिटी अपीसमेंट भी वोट बैंक पॉलिटिक्स के लिए था, आज मेजॉरिटी अपीसमेंट भी is for vote bank politics. But the real problem is, can you actually make such a policy work in a country like ours? Now take the Christians. What is the percentage of Christians in India? 2%. 2% of Christians in India is more than the combined population of Hungary and Greece. You have a country where when I still remember when I entered parliament as a member, the first thing you see on the main gate is Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. The world is my family. And it was said by our sages 5,000 years ago. ये तो महावाक्य है. उदार चिंताना वसुधैव. और एकम सत्य विप्रह बहुधा वदन्ति. The truth is one. Wise people call it by different names. Or another Mahavakya, Ano Bhadraha Vidvoyantu Vishwata. Let good thoughts flow to me from all directions. ये तो सोच रही है ना, और उस आधार पर कितने बड़े सिविलाइजेशंस इस दुनिया में पैदा हुए, उभरे और खत्म हो गए, पर आज भी इस देश की संस्कृति इन 5 फीचर्स हैं: एंटिक्विटी, डाइवर्सिटी, पीक्स ऑफ रिफाइनमेंट, असिमिलेशन, वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, एंड कंटिन्यूटी. उसका कारण ही ये है, तू हिंदू बनेगा ना मुसलमान बनेगा, इंसान की औलाद है, इंसान बनेगा. सो yes, sometimes there are regional chauvinisms, sometimes there are elements which perhaps spread hatred against somebody else. पर मैं एक बात आपको बता दूं, the one thing the middle class does not like is अस्थिरता और अराजकता, यानी instability, social instability, endemic social instability, and breakdown of law and order. थोड़ा बहुत चले तो ठीक है, पड़ोस में होने लगे तो पढ़ाई कहाँ होगी, नौकरी कहाँ होगी, बिजनेस कहाँ होगी, निवेश कहाँ से होगा, इन्वेस्टर्स कहाँ से आएंगे. So there is an idealist reason and there is a pragmatic reason. The pragmatic reason is, I mentioned in one of my lectures, here we are sitting in Gurugram. What city is it called? Millennium City. All the Fortune 500 companies are here. But when there were religious tensions very close to it, which spread up to Gurugram, there were prohibitory orders. The MNCs, they gave instructions to the people to stay at home, schools were closed. If this becomes a norm, will more of them invest here? तो थोड़ा सोचने की जरूरत है. हाँ, जय श्री राम बोलिए. तुलसीदास के रामचरितमानस में लक्ष्मण पूछते राम से, ये लक्ष्मण राम संवाद है कि भाई सबसे बड़ा धर्म क्या है, और राम का जो जवाब है वो ये है, परहित सरिस धर्म नहीं भाई, पर पीड़ा सम नहीं अधम आई. परहित, वेलफेयर ऑफ अदर्स, परहित सरिस, उसके जैसा कोई धर्म नहीं है भाई, और पर पीड़ा, औरों को पेन पहुंचाना, सब उससे बड़ा ईवल नहीं. When Ram is born, Shri Ram कहिए, तो when he is born, the Bible in North India is तुलसीदास रामचरितमानस. आप गांव में जाए तो लोग कंठस्थ याद है. The line is भय प्रगट कृपाला, कृपाला दीन दयाला. Now, okay, weaponize Ram, but please understand why he is called मर्यादा पुरुषोत्तम. भाई उनकी कैकेयी ने उनको वनवास में भेजा, 14 साल तक एक षड्यंत्र में. तो एक कैकेयी और राम का संवाद है। When Kaikeyi tells him that I want my son Bharat, you to be in exile. Now, listen to Ram's reply. No anger. वो जो कहते हैं ना सौम्य रस. He tells Kaikeyi, सुन जननी, सोई सुत बड़ा भागी, जो पितु मात बचन अनुरागी. Mother, that son is doubly blessed who has the opportunity to follow his parents' instructions or desire. You all don't have to, you can rebel sometimes. But that's why is Maryada Purushottam. In another, you see this division. Lakshman asked him, what is Maya? And I've never heard a more short and more brilliant reply to this answer. He says, in the words of Ram, मैं अरु मोर तो ते माया. मैं, I, और मेरा, और तेरा, इसका भ्रम ही माया. So, speak up for the real Hinduism. And you will find, as Gandhiji said, there is bad in every religion. There is good in every religion. आज सनातन धर्म पर डिबेट होता है. In Tamil Nadu, 89% of the people are Hindus. आपने उससे भव्य मंदिर कहीं और देखे हैं? Tanjore to Madurai. But Sanatan Dharma has to be respected for the profundity of its thought. पर ये तो आप नहीं कह सकते जो उसमें जितनी त्रुटियां हैं, जितना उसमें गलत है, वो सब हमेशा के लिए सही है. तो अपने रिलीजन को भी इंटरोगेट करना. और मैंने आपको एक दिन पहले बताया था, सबसे ज्यादा किया वीर सावरकर. He has even spoken in favor of beef eating. He said spirituality does not lie in the stomach. तो इस बात को तो वो दोहराते नहीं है. वो छोटा सा 3 पेज का पोलेमिक लिखा है हिंदू राष्ट्र, उसी की बात होती है. खैर, learn about it. Take these things in your stride. But in India, there is no option but one Siddhant. Respect for all things. If you want to preserve the unity of this country.
I think that's a very good note actually to end on today. Thank you so much, Mr. Varma, for this. And like I said, your assignment, which will be explained to you, will have elements from everything Mr. Varma has spoken about related to the middle class over the last few lectures. So do think about that as you proceed for this project and for this assignment. So thank you very much.